So you've wanted to transition out of the classroom and into instructional design for a while now, but the school year is right around the corner and you've already signed up to teach another year. The question is, do you need to wait until this school year is over to make the leap into ID? Or are there some things that you can start doing today to make that transition quicker than you'd expect? In this video, we explore whether or not it's too late to transition into instructional design, and if there are some things you can start doing right now to set you up for success. Hi, I'm Nathan Wolfe, and I started seriously making the transition out of the classroom and into instructional design during the 2020 school year, because I was faced with the reality that life inside the classroom was just no longer sustainable. But because of my teaching responsibilities and feeling like I had no time, that transition didn't happen during that school year. And then summer rolled around, and I started feeling the need for rest and recuperation because of all the burnout from the previous 10 months, and I didn't make any progress there either. And sure enough, the start of the 2021 school year rolls around, and I am feeling a sense of regret because I didn't plan ahead, and I'm already feeling the pain, the burnout, the stresses, the lack of work-life balance. Something needed to change. And so around September of that school year, I put a plan in place to upskill, to build projects for my portfolio, and then finally committed to landing a role before that school year was over. And then fast forward to March, about 6 months later, and I had landed a role in instructional design and was out of the classroom. So I want to share with you how I went from feeling it's too late to transition into instructional design to making leaps and bounds in a transition out of the classroom and into a new career. But one of the first things, once you seriously have made that commitment to transition, that we need to come to terms with is finding the time. I want to talk about a couple of different ways to do that, because that is a big obstacle as you're starting the school year or even in the middle of the school year itself. And so one of the first things that, especially if you're coming from the education space, a teaching background, that you need to do is to break out of the semester mindset. That is the best way of actually finding time. Because at least for me, speaking from my experience, I waited until the end of the year. I waited until the breaks. I waited until the end of a semester to start making some progress, because those were the markers in our mind that we are being conditioned to say, hey, now I have some time for myself. But if we break out of that semester mindset and realize that one, there is time during these semesters where you can make that progress, and two, that companies that are not in the education space are always hiring. It's not a now or never thing. Oh, I need to wait till the summer to start applying for jobs. No, there's always opportunity available. We got to break out of that semester mindset. In addition to that, you're also trying to balance being a great teacher or educator and providing a valuable experience for your students. And so if you can identify the essentials, what needs to happen for them to make the progress and you still feel good about being a teacher, if you can identify the essentials there, then you can kind of let some of the other extra things go off to the side. And I've been there too. There's always some great opportunities for some really innovative learning experiences that you could do, but feeling the burnout that you had more than likely last year, you got to recognize that's only going to add to it. And they can still learn and still have a valuable learning experience in your classroom, even without those extras, and including the extra things that you do that you're not getting paid to do. And I know that's hard because, again, conditioning, but if you can let some of those things go, make some sacrifices there for things that you're not getting paid to do anyway, that's going to help you find some of that time. But really, one of the best ways beyond breaking out of the semester mindset to actually make some progress and find some time is to give yourself a consistent schedule, commit to a consistent schedule of personal development. Now, that can be 1 hour a day that you're saying, I'm going to commit to making this transition. It could be Tuesdays and Thursdays, twice a week. I'm going to spend a couple hours making that progress. Unless you calendar out that time and schedule it for yourself, it's probably not going to happen because of all the other things you have going on as a teacher or as an educator. And so the more you stick to that schedule, the more you stick to and commit to having something that is more routine, the more confident you're going to grow that this is going to be something you can accomplish, and the more you'll start seeing yourself as an instructional designer. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to feel other emotions like guilt, for instance, but this should help you make some progress. And so let's talk about working through the guilt, because quite honestly, that's one of the biggest obstacles holding people back from making that transition. I felt the same way, but I want you to realize that the guilt that you have now about leaving your students, leaving the profession, leaving your colleagues, it's not going to be gone at a semester mark. It's not going to be gone at the end of the year. That's still something you're going to have to face. And thoughts are probably going to come through your mind like, well, how can I leave my students? Or how could I put more work on my coworkers if I make this transition? I just need to wait till the end of the year and then restart all this process. But recognize something else too that's also not going to go away, just like the guilt. It's the fact that you're burnt out. The fact that you are probably not able to help people, whether that's your colleagues or your students, the best of your ability because you're not prioritizing yourself. And so if you can commit to prioritizing yourself so that you can help people more effectively, both during the school year, but also with your future role that you're going to be landing, then you're going to see a big difference. And that helps with the guilt. I know for me, once I got to that point of starting to follow my plan of making that transition, I actually felt more invigorated to do my work in the classroom as well as my work in the transition because I had a plan forward and I didn't feel stuck. And so finding the time is an obstacle, but it's one that can be overcome. Working through the guilt is another thing that's going to take some time. But really, once you work through that guilt, there's still one more logistical piece that may be holding you back. And that is, what do we do about breaking contracts? Now, I will start with the disclaimer saying I'm not going to give any legal advice here or saying there's one way to do this or approach this topic. But at the same time, I did break contract in the middle of my school year, but you can do it in a way where you don't burn bridges, where you can put in the preparation to make sure that everything goes smoothly. Really, my biggest suggestion here is one, do your research and know your districts or organizations policies when it comes to breaking contracts. And again, the more you know now at the beginning of a school year or in the middle of the school year, the easier it's going to be later on to actually make that choice and leaving once you find a role in instructional design. And when it comes to breaking contract, there's a lot of fear and anxiety about what are the penalties that are going to come along with that, whether those are financial or there's threats of losing your credentials or certificates. But really, if you've already decided to no longer teach, recognize that there aren't really going to be negative consequences for your career, only positives because you're leaving that environment that wasn't helping you to begin with. And so again, do your research, understand what's going on there. For me, I had a successful transition out of the classroom where I was able to break my contract. I worked with my colleagues to plan ahead and make sure that they had everything they needed with my students, so they were set for success for the rest of the year. And again, didn't burn any bridges with my administration because I did the research ahead of time. But again, that is a stressful step in this, but don't let that hold you back and let you feel like it's too late. With that, even if you chose to wait till the end of the year to leave the classroom, making the progress right now on the transition is so important. So once you have your mind made up and maybe even a portfolio created, before you need to sign your intent to return form, even if you finish off the school year, that's going to give you so much more peace of mind so you don't feel like you're going back on your word or having to break a contract. All of that together there is going to set you up for success in making that transition. And so if you've made up your mind that it's not too late to transition into ID, then what's next? A couple different steps you can follow there. My first suggestion is that you go ahead, if you haven't already, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you're going to see hours of content and more in the months and weeks to come that will help you in those first steps of making that transition out of the classroom and into instructional design. And if you're looking for a step-by-step process that we've seen time and time again work for those former educators moving out of the classroom and into a new career, then grab that free Become an ID checklist listed in the description below to help you get started. And if you're looking for more support in your journey of trying to find that time and work through the guilt and understand all the steps required there to become an instructional designer with personalized support and guidance, then explore the ID Bootcamp, which is also linked below, and we'd be happy to help you there as well. Otherwise, it's not too late. Don't stay stuck. You can make progress, whether it's now or anytime during the school year, and we will see you in the next video.